This presentation is delivered by the Stanford Center for Professional Development.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday, November 8, 2012, session in our series about green technologies in transportation. This series is produced by the U.S. Asia Technology Management Center, which is a research center in Stanford School of Engineering. And the first thing I want to do is to thank the Alan Miner Foundation for series sponsorship, for providing financial support that helps us. We'll have some refreshments outside afterward, and, it's thanks to our sponsor that we have that. I also want to say a special thanks today to Nixon Peabody, which is a law office, a major law firm, for especially helping us to arrange this session today. Our speaker is coming all the way from Wuhan, China, and Nixon Peabody was my first introduction to Mr. Peng. And I'd like to recognize Mr. Joseph Bach, who is with Nixon Peabody, and hope you can say hi to Joseph, who's done a lot of great U.S.-China work in regard to this kind of corporate issues. So today we're going to talk about marine transportation. And marine transportation is actually missed a lot when people are thinking about greenhouse gases and global warming. But right now, probably from air transportation and also marine transportation, almost 4% of all of the carbon dioxide emissions in the world is coming from that source. However, if they don't do something about it, this percentage is predicted to increase to like 72% by the year 2030. Just because it's being cut back so up many other places, and also there's an awful lot more transport than there used to be. So I've got a few slides to sort of introduce this whole issue. The real issue when it comes to marine transportation is bunker oil. And almost all commercial ships are using marine diesel engines. These are very different kinds of engines than you find in an automobile or in a big truck. They are made to use this kind of oil that's called bunker oil. And bunker oil is a high sulfur product of the crude oil refining process. Basically, you always get it when you're trying to make gasoline and so on and so forth. So it will be produced no matter whether it's used or not. But it has a very high sulfur content compared to other kinds of oil. Its average, according to the International Maritime Organization, is for bunker oil to have 2.7% sulfur by weight in the fuel. That equals about 27,000 parts per million. The diesel fuel that you use in a car has about 50 parts per million. So 50 versus 27,000 is a pretty big difference in terms of how much sulfur there is. So one thing about it is, since it's produced and it comes out in kind of large quantities from the refining process, it's cheap. And it's very important to the whole kind of transportation of goods and services across the world that shipping costs are low. And one major reason that we've been able to preserve low shipping costs is that these big engines use bunker fuel. But it is a source of 4 kinds of air pollution. Sulfur dioxide, or sulfur oxides plural, nitrogen oxides plural, also particulate matter, which is another word for soot. And the soot also contains some sulfur in it and so forth, but when you really are smelling diesel fuel somewhere, it's the soot that tends to be the source of most of the smell. The other kind of thing is it does produce CO2. So it's a source of 4 major types of air pollution. Just in regard to sulfur itself, sulfur oxides, the European Union, which has been pretty active in this, and as you can imagine, looked at the sulfur oxide emissions from the 25 European nations in the EU total. And that's dropping like a rock. Meanwhile, this steady rise in sulfur oxide emissions from ships is eventually going to pass the emissions from land-based all across the European Union somewhere around 2015 or 2016. They've got a similar graph for nitrogen oxides too. So this is an issue. So this means that the United Nations got involved. It is something that you can't deal with from the laws of any one country. And the UN first passed the International Convention for the Prevention of Pollution from Ships in 1973. And that was revised in 1978. And the laws that people most care about are the MARPOL Annex 6, which first was adopted in 97, and it took them 8 years to really bring it into force. So the MARPOL Annex limits the main air pollutants from ships. It also prohibits deliberate emissions of ozone-depleting compounds, regulates shipboard incineration. You can't just burn things on ships. And it also regulates the emission of volatile organic compounds from tankers. So what's happened in this whole world is that in 2008, they got together again and decided they needed a much more stringent set of protocols. So the new MARPOL Annex that has really just started going into effect from 2010 has stepped down targets that you may not exceed and be in compliance with your air pollutions. So with regard to sulfur, which is one of the biggest things here, the current state of the art was 4.5% sulfur by weight as a percentage of the emissions coming out of a ship. From the beginning of this year, they're supposed to be at 3.5%, and the target by 2020 is 0.5%. That's a pretty massive reduction in sulfur. There's a big distinction here. They have what are called emission control areas, and emission control areas are the areas that are susceptible to the most damage from marine-based air pollution. The entire Baltic Sea, most of the North Sea, a lot of the coastal waters around the United States are in these emissions control areas. So in the emissions control areas, it's even more severe. This means that you have to either run on a separate set of engines or take really different kinds of approaches to reducing the amount of emissions. This was a concern by the people who put together this set of protocols, because at the time they were thinking it could only be handled through better quality fuel. And so there is a provision that if they don't have enough fuel to run the protocols as it is, they'll delay the introduction of the step down. So there is a similar set of regulations for nitrogen oxides. Today we're primarily going to be talking about sulfur oxides because that's actually the key to the problem. You can solve this problem in several ways. Our presentation today is about seawater scrubbing of the emissions from these big marine diesel engines. Another alternative would be to use lower sulfur fuel. But the only way you can get lower sulfur fuel is through greater refining, and that has an energy cost. It also creates its own kind of sets of environmental problems to remove sulfur from crude oil. And finally, you're going to get this bunker fuel type stuff anyway. What are you going to do with it? There's even been proposals to take it and put it back in old depleted oil wells, but they're not sure what would happen over the lifetime of the thing. So another option is to use some sort of an onshore desulfurization technique for the emissions themselves. In coal-fired power plants, this is where you get most of this stuff right now, what they have that's an alternative to seawater is to essentially use limestone or chalk. And the chemical reaction is going to yield gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, and also CO2. But, you know, especially on a ship, you're going to have to transport the limestone and gypsum around, which is weight that you're paying energy cost for. And the energy cost of mining the limestone and gypsum has got to be figured into it. And in contrast, seawater is a great source of calcium carbonate. So it's what happens in seawater is a fascinating thing. Sulfur in seawater, the sea is actually the natural source of most of the sulfur in the world. And when you have sulfur that runs off of the land into the ocean, microorganisms methylate it and create these dimethyl sulfides, and some of those evaporate back into the clouds and actually help form the seeds for clouds. So dimethyl sulfate is not necessarily a bad thing. It's really cloud seeding. A lot of the sulfur stays in the organism, and so as the organism dies and decays, this is why we have lots of sulfur in oil now, right? The thing about burning sulfur in the middle of fossil fuels is that it emits sulfur in the form of sulfur oxides. And the sulfur oxides, almost all of them really come from what people burn. The only naturally abundant place where you find them is close to volcanic eruptions. And these are the things that in the middle of the air form sulfuric acid and give you acid rain. And also it will combine with ammonium and create haze, which of course traps a lot of sunlight and gives you even better global warming. So, you know, in the air, you really don't want these things. But the natural calcium carbonate in seawater takes these things and yields gypsum and also CO2 in the seawater. Seawater is a great place to leave your CO2. You can sequester an awful lot of carbon dioxide in the ocean. So that's not an issue. And they've already found that sulfur from seawater scrubbing barely increases even the local readings of sulfur. There's so much sulfur in the ocean already that a little bit more is not going to make much difference. Even in an enclosed harbor with locks is what the source said that I read. So, you know, this is a much better kind of approach. Today, we have a very interesting technology, a great speaker again, I mentioned coming all the way from Wuhan, China. Mr. S.G. Peng invented a natural seawater scrubbing technology for taking sulfur out of emissions. He actually comes to this from a chemical engineering background. He graduated from the Wuhan University of Hydraulic and Electrical Engineering back in 1982. He's also participated in executive courses at Tsinghua University. He was in the expert group for environmental protection in the Electric Power Design Institute of China's Department of Energy. And he founded the first Chinese company that was specialized in fossil fuel air pollution reduction. This was back in 1994. So despite all the reputation that China has had for, you know, not paying attention to this kind of thing, here's a company from 1994 that was built around reducing air pollution when burning fossil fuels. So he changed the name of the company in 1997 to the China Environmental Project Technology Company Incorporated. And he first went to work putting his technology into coal-fired power plants. So my understanding is that now more than 40 of China's big electric coal-fired power plants are using his technology to scrub sulfur out of the emissions of the power plants. And in the mid-2000s, about the first time I met Mr. Peng, he was developing a much revised version of this technology. With a power plant, you don't worry about weight, you don't worry about size, you know, it's just big is great. But a much more efficient version of this that would be something you could put onto a ship. And he started to develop this in the mid-2000s, and in 2009 founded the company Marine Protec to commercialize this. Marine Protec is a California company. So this is clearly a global play. So I'm very happy that Mr. Peng can be with us today. I'd like to ask him to come up now and give us some prepared remarks. We have the Chief Marketing Director for CEPT, Mr. Jerry Zhao, who's going to be the interpreter for Mr. Peng. And so we will have Q&A. Jerry will take care of us when it comes to time to ask questions. Let me ask Mr. Peng for your presentation. Thank you so much for coming. I'll sit here. Okay. You be up front. Okay. I think it's better if you sit down and he stands. Yeah. Okay. Maybe Jerry can sit down here.
No, 我就站这儿啊，我站在这儿。He wants sit down. 你想坐还是想坐？我站着，我站着。OK， 那我就坐在这儿。啊，你坐这儿好。我首先也要感谢丹谢教授刚才对我们所处的这个领域做了详尽的研究和分析。So firstly, I would like to say thanks to Professor Dan Xiao to make a lot of research on this area. 那么a very good introduction. 我更要感谢，在很多年前，当我们从火电这样的一个领域刚刚接触到船舶的时候，丹谢教授就给了我们很多的提示和鼓励。And also, thanks Professor Dan Xiao a lot of encourage and indirector for many years ago when we start our business in the power plants. 那么我们今天想给大家交流的这样一个关于二氧化硫的污染问题，那么它是一个现在在全球气候和环境问题很突出的背景下，大家都很关心的一个问题。Today we just want to share some ideas with you. Here, the problem a lot of people concerned as the pollution in the atmosphere in these years. 特别是现在对于交通船舶的这个污染，这个问题越来越突出。Especially the problem is becoming more serious. This currently, especially in the two industries, the energy and the transport. 最近我们看到就是特拉华大学的詹姆斯教授有一个研究，他认为全球16艘最大型船舶所排放的硫污染物可能会相当于全球所有的汽车。So this year we found currently we found that a research from Professor James Corbett from the University of Delaware said that the sulfur emissions of the most largest 16 ships is equivalent to the sulfur emissions of all the land vehicles. 所以现在关于防止船舶大气污染，联合国的这个公约已经有67个国家签署。So on the convention and regulation has been signed for 67 countries of the MAPO. 那么现在对于船舶的这样一个，特别是二氧化硫的污染，那么主要的解决的方法，基本上都来自于能源，也就是火力发电厂这个领域。So of all the solutions are coming from the solutions in the power stations in the land. 从现在来看，大家比较关心的主要有3种，一个是滴流油，一个是用化学品来中和这个污染气体，再一个就是我们一直在做的利用天然海水的方法。 这个丹谢教授刚才已经提到。
So as the Professor Dasher has just introduced, there was three contenders to solve the problem. The first is using low sulfur fuel and using chemicals to neutralize the acid, and then is our solution, the natural seawater method.
所以在过去，18年这么一个时间里边，我们 CEPT 在燃煤火电厂这个领域，对天然海水洗涤的这样一个方法，我们做了开发和实施。
So for the past 18 years, our company CEPT have experienced a lot of research and development on the natural seawater method, on the use of power stations inland.
包括近几年我们在船舶上也做了一些实验。
Also, we demonstrated the method into the ship.
那么我们的感觉是 ，NSW， 也就是我们所说的天然海水洗涤的这种方法，也许是最经济、最绿色的方法。
So as we are considering by far the NSW natural seawater scrubbing method is by far the most efficiency and green technology.
所以从温室气体的减排，一直到在商业领域，这个使用者可以承受的这样一个成本，这样一个综合的角度来考虑，包括这个减少污染的这样一个环境的效果，我们认为这个用天然海水洗涤的方法，也许是履行联合国公约的这个绿色的这样一个最佳的办法。
So as overall the greenhouse emissions and the cost and the consider of the efficiency, we think natural seawater scrubbing technology is the best way to in line with the requirement of MAPO of the UN United Nation.
那么这个联合国的公约已经现在变成一些已经生效和正在生效的海事法令。
So the Convention of the United Nations has become the regulations and the laws already enforced or will enforced in the future.
但是从最近几年已经生效的这个部分法令的这个实施情况来看，用低流油的方案遭遇了非常大的困难。
But regarding the implement of the some of the regulations recent year being enforced, they meet with a lot of different difficulties.
从法令的执行者、制定者他们的期待来看，他们是希望通过这样的一个法令，能够产生和刺激低流油的市场，然后就会有大量的低流油来支撑法令的执行。
So for the regulation maker, the people who make the regulation, they just want to have a expectation for the refiners and low sulfur fuel suppliers to make the demand and stimulate the fuel production.
但是从现状来看，全球的炼油商并没有响应这样一个市场的预期，没有追加投资来扩大低流油的生产。
But let's say the current status, the refiners of all over the world, they didn't get the response of the expectation. They didn't invest to increase the production of low sulfur oil.
而且目前关于究竟应该用什么方式来履行公约，仍然存在很大的争论。
And there is still some debate on how to implement the convention.
上个月我们在欧洲，至少我们听到了这样的一个事情，就是国际独立邮轮船东协会曾经起诉过欧盟，希望能够阻止这个公约的履行。
We just know a news that in Europe the Intertanko is a independent national maybe some ship owners of the tanker. They just sue EU to block the implementation.
那么除了滴漏油，刚才丹谢教授也提到，还有利用天然海水和利用化学品的两种方法。
So except the using low sulfur or low sulfur fuel, as the Professor Dansher mentioned, that we have another two choice is using chemical method and using seawater method.
那么从我们的实践来看，这两种方法存在着非常大的差别。
So as to the practice, there is a very big difference of these two methods.
其中主要是 NSW 只消耗很少的资源，但是用化学品的方式将要消耗大量的资源。
So you can see that the NSW method will consume less energy and resources, but the chemical method will consume a lot of materials.
无论是淡水，还是化学品，还是产生的废弃物，还是所需要的存储空间，这个对于船舶来说应该是非常宝贵的，以及对于港口的影响，这两种工艺都存在非常大的差异。
So whatever we talk about the fresh water consumption, chemicals and the hazardous waste need to be disposal, and additional more storage spaces in the ship is a very important thing for the ship, the space, the occupation, and also the port, the infrastructure of the port, they also very different.
特别有一个问题，就是当现在的这工艺能够可以用来计算它的资源消耗量的时候，我们发现，那么对港口的影响会非常的大。
So when we calculate in the data of the two methods, we can see a very big impact for the port.
也就是说，如果化学品的这样一个工艺最终被用来大规模的执行联合国公约，那么就会出现这样的情况。
So just look, if we using the chemical method to reduce emissions to comply with the UN regulations, that will be happen like this.
假设有一艘船到达奥克兰南港，那么他要做的事情就是卸下大量的废弃物，然后再从奥克兰港装运大量的淡水离开。
Just assuming there is a ship land to the Auckland port, then it will drop a lot of hazard wastes, and also to reload the chemical and fresh water.
但是利用天然海水的方法截然不同。
But this is totally different if we using the natural seawater.
那么利用这样的一个天然海水来减少化石燃料的二氧化硫污染，对于我们来讲，是我们从事了18年的一件事情。
For us to use natural seawater to scrubbing the sulfurs in the emissions, we have experienced for over 18 years.
从94年开始，我们开始开发，那么全球第一台燃煤发电机组采用 NSW 工艺是在1999年投产。
So from 1994, we start to develop the NSW method, and came into implementation and installed at 1999.
这两个电厂都是在1999和2000年投产，那么它们所减少的二氧化硫的数量，我们可以算一下，12台机组大概相当于230艘30万吨油轮所排放的二氧化硫。
So these two power plant are all put into use at about 2000 also. So let me say the amount of the emission reduction of SO2 by the only 12 coal-fired units above is equivalent to the emission of more than 230 of 300,000 tons of oil tankers.
那么 几年前，丹谢教授问我怎么才能够把巨大的发电厂的这样一个装置装上船。那么我们今天来给丹谢教授来给他一个我们的一个成绩的汇报，那就是我们在2011年把它装到了这艘船上。
So several years ago, when I meet with Professor Dansher, he just asked me, how can I put this so big equipment to be a smaller one and install it into a ship. Today, we just installed it on a ship at 2011, and today we will give him a result.
那这个下面就是这3个工业设施里边的 NSW 的洗涤器。
So this is the 3 pictures the scrubbing equipment for the 3 need to be scrubbed.
那最大的区别就是我们船舶的洗涤器是装在船舱里。
So you can see the obviously the scrubber used in the ship installed inside of the ship in the cabin.
关于这项海水洗涤技术的合理性和它的这个科学的原理，刚才其实丹谢教授都已经讲到。
So the theory of how can use natural seawater to wash the sulfur, Professor Dansher has already introduced.
我们这里只是用这个图来更形象的来说明一个问题，那就是当没有采用洗涤之前，二氧化硫会污染了这个陆生态、陆域的环境以后，它仍然会随着陆地的江河进入海洋。
So here we just want to explain that before the scrubbing, the sulfur, the SO2 will pollute the atmosphere and the land environment, and then it will return to the ocean through the rivers.
那么我们做的事儿就是增加一个洗涤装置，让这个二氧化硫变成硫化物，直接到达海洋。
So for us, we just add one equipment, the NSWEGC, to scrub the sulfur, the SOx, and change it into the sulfide. It's a kind of salt and come into the sea.
这样就保护了我们的陆地的生态环境，同时对海洋环境也是友好的。
So that is how we can protect the environment of the land and also friendly to the nature and the ocean.
当然，这些只是原理。那么，作为一个真正实用的设备和装置，我们还必须要满足 IMO 联合国 IMO 的具体的环保的规定和标准。
So it's only a theory, but we must combine with the requirement of IMO and the United Nations, the standards.
因此，我们在一艘名叫瑞鹤号的游轮上，我们进行了实船的验证。
So we have a sea trial on the ship named Rehe. It's an oil tanker.
现在把那个录像等放一下。
录像再放一下。开始了吗？ Oh yes.
怎么样？时间不够了是吧？
不是，这个还没开始。
在这艘游轮上，我们采用了这个将我们的 NSW 的这个洗涤器来替换它原有的消音器。
So on this oil tanker, we just take place the silencer of our natural seawater equipment, scrubbing.
这个是拆掉了它原有的消音器。
So this is a silencer. We put it down.
那么每一辆汽车上大家都知道也有消音器，如果没有消音器，我们的汽车将会震耳欲聋。
So as we know, every car, the automobile has a silencer. If we have no the silencer, it will be a very big noise.
所以船舶的发动机也装有消音器。
So for the ship, we also have a silencer after the engine.
但是船舶上的空间非常紧张，特别是现有的船舶已经没有额外的空间允许我们去安装设备。
But there is a difference that in the ship, the space is very small, so we have no more space to install new equipment.
因此，我们设计了一个清洗器，既可以清洗二氧化硫，也有消音的功能，来取代它的消音器。
So we design the scrubbing system, the equipment we can install it to take place of the silencer, but also have the function of the silencer.
我们的这个瑞鹤号邮轮的 NSW 机器的过程，还有一个很大的特点。
So there's also another advantage of our system.
就是我们是对它的主推发动机的全部的尾气进行处理。
We deal with the whole exhausting gas of the main engine.
那么这个和目前我们在欧洲所看到的几例实验有很大的区别，因为他们一般都只能够对1/几的这个尾气进行处理。
So it's a difference from several the other experiments in Europe, because in the other system in Europe installed in the ship, they just can deal with some of the exhausting gas. Not it's not 100%. It's just somehow the auxiliary engines and all part of the main engine.
那么安装了我们这个清洗器的这样一艘邮轮，那么在东南亚的这个国际海域，这个在营运的状态下进行了这个2000小时的海试。
So the ship with installed our equipment have sailed in the southeast and the northeast of Asia and sailed about 2,000 hours.
那么这样的一个海试的过程，有 IMO 组织所授权的一个中国船机社，他们在监测的过程中进行了全程的这个主持和监测。
So it is CCIS, an authorized department from IMO, supervised the whole sea trial.
而且整个监测的程序设计是完全按照 IMO 18459决议的规则来进行的。
So of all the designs and installations and the manufacturings of the equipments are all as according to the requirement of the IMO MPC 18459 requirement.
那么从监测的结果来看，主要的参数都能够很好的满足 IMO 的要求。
So as to the data of the from the monitoring, the results are all very good to be in line with the IMO requirements.
这就是我们先前所说的，我们认为 NSW 工艺也许是履行联合国公约的最佳的一个绿色方案。
So that is why we say that maybe the natural seawater method is the best way, best solution for the implement of the IMO and Union.
谢谢大家。
Thanks.
So, if I can, I would like to ask the first question. What kind of certification do you have to get from now before this becomes a commercial product?
就是那么如果可以的话，他很想先问一个问题，就是说在我们最后实现正式的商业化之前，我们需要得到哪些样的一些就是许可、认证啊？
我们现在正在做船机社认证，这是按照船舶行业的规则。 所进行的工作。
Today we are doing certifications from the society. There's this rule of the maritime industry required.
So you already have 2,000 hours of this sea trial that was a successful test. Will you have to get another 2,000 hours or another 10,000 hours? What do you need for the certification?
他说：“那我们实际上已经有2000小时的很成功的一个海试，那么接下来是不是还要再做下一个2000小时，或者是一个什么样的一个实验
？IMO 关于船技师认证有很严格的规则和具体的流程，我们按照它的流程做就可以。
So there is a very strict guideline from IMO. We just want to abide the rules and do according the requirement from IMO.
Okay. And so, to be very frank, to that end, it would be great to have the cooperation of some shipping company, right?
就是坦率的说，我们现在是不是已经和一些船公司有一些合作，或者是有一些正式的一些接触啊？
是我们和船公司一直都在合作，包括给我们提供船舶做试验的船公司，也包括一些需要订货的客户。
So yes, we have always cooperate with some ship owners, including the ship owners to sponsor us the ship for the sea trial, and somehow some another ship owners they just connect with us.
Is there any restriction, either by the China government or the U.S. government, about what kind of shipping companies you can cooperate with if you're asking them to do a test trial?
就是说，关于这个与哪些船公司来进行合作，那么美国以及中国的政府会不会有一些特别的限制？
船舶行业、运输行业是我们目前所接触的国际性最强的一个行业。
So the marine industry for the ship is the most international industry.
Yeah,
I have by far I know.
所有的规则几乎都是按照 IMO 的。
So of all the rules and the regulations are according to the requirement of IMO.
Okay. Okay. Excellent. So let's open the floor.
那么就是看看大家的想法。
Okay. So it looked like the silencer is a component of ships is very different from ship to ship, right? I mean, they all have one, but they're all different shapes and sizes, right?
他说这个看起来这个消音器好像是每个船是不一样的，它这个大大小小的或者是它的构造可能是不同。So what's your question?
So with that, like how do you design the technology to be such radically different shapes?
所以他说，那你们是怎么样来实现，就是对于不同的船去做这个设计，或者是根据它的这个构造来去满足它的需要啊？
我来说
OK
一般来说，消音器它的这个体积和这个船舶的发动机的体积有一个固定的关系。
So currently, there's a stable relationship between the silencer and the engine. The size of the silencer of the engine.
Okay.
So it may be becoming standard. If I can add something here, these standards for the annex, the MARPOL annex, you notice how they were graduated in these 3 dates and what percentage it was supposed to be. There's a similar kind of differences between Tier 1 ships that were built after the year 2000, Tier 2 ships, which would be built after 2011, and Tier 3 ships, which would be built, and launched from 2020. And so the Tier 2 and Tier 3 ships that are just being built, they can actually cooperate with the engine manufacturers and have a standard system. But the thing is, you've got an awful lot of ships, and the standards are going to apply retroactively to every ship built after 1990. And so that means that there will be a lot of semi-custom work. Yeah.
That's what I was curious.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I noticed in the chemical equation you had that you produce CO2 in gas form as a result. Is that something you would be concerned about, or is that something more easily taken care of?
Pardon?
Oh, okay. In the chemical equation that in the slides, you produce CO2 gas as one of the products. Is that something that's more easily
Okay.
taken care of,
Wait, go back. There it is.
or is
Yeah,
it not
thank you.
covered by MARPO?
就他就是说这个，就是说对于这个里面，关于这个硫吧，关于硫排放到海洋里面，是不是还有什么其他的一些要考虑的问题？So are you means the sulfur into the sea, the problem of chemical CO2?
CO2 is an
yes.
output too.
他说这个里面因为有释放出一些二氧化碳
，yes，
这个样子。
环境的问题是一个综合性很强的问题。那么这个会有少量的二氧化碳的释放，但是就整个而言，就是它的能耗最少，它所消耗的其他的物质最少。那么其他的能耗和消耗大量能耗和消耗大量物质的其他的方式，它的二氧化碳的排放远远比这个高，所以它是一个综合二氧化碳排放最低的一种工业。
So for the problem of the environment protection is a very integrated quite problem. A lot of factors. Also, we have in this function we see some CO2, but by far this method is compared with the other method is less. So the other method, the low sulfur and using chemical will release even more.
So let me ask a very simple question. Mr. Peng, your technology works by passing the emission through seawater, right? The emitted gases pass through seawater, which is basically in liquid form. It's not steam, is it?
在那个sorry.
So,
I can answer since I know the technology.
yeah, okay.
It's basically droplet. It's like a shower.
Droplets.
It's a droplet. The
But
gas
liquid
comes from the
droplets.
bottom, and droplets come from the top.
So what happens to the seawater after it passes, after the emission passes through it?
To answer, I can answer all
就
your
是那个海水它在洗涤后它会发生什么事情？就是说它跟那个海水和二氧化硫发生反应。You mean the reaction, the seawater and the emission?
Yeah.
What happened then?
Yeah, what happens to the
Yes.
waste seawater?
Yes，就是说那些废弃的洗消水它会怎么样？
二氧化硫被海水吸收以后，那么二氧化硫会变成硫酸盐，少量的硫酸盐，存在这个海水中，或者会使海水中的硫酸盐增加一点点。那么这个量大概是多少呢？是海水现有硫酸盐的这个本底值，就是现有硫酸盐的这个量的，大概就是用于这一团水，首先是不是指的整个海洋？用于洗涤的这个水，其中的硫酸盐会增加3%左右。
So the when the emissions meet with the seawater, the seawater will absorb the sulfurs and turn the SO2 into a sulfate. It's a kind of salt, and they will add so. As the scrubbing seawater, the percentage of the sulfur content will add more, only 3%.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the seawater is basically sent out of the ship, right? Back to the ocean.
就是这个海水就被洗涤到船里了，是海里面了，对吧
Yes.
从船里 yes,
Because
排放
I'm guessing that since the seawater is in droplet form, a lot of the CO2 that's produced is also suspended in the seawater itself.
他说
So it's not
有可能
really in the
这些碳
atmosphere.
发生反应后，直接还是会跑到海洋里面。
You can put a heck of a lot of CO2 in water, right?
它的就是关系二氧化碳是溶解到直接跟海水排到海水里形成碳酸了，还是说就会释放到空气中？
有一部分形成的二氧化碳仍然会存在海水中。
Yes.
我们不排除可能有少量的会出来，不排除。
Yes. Some of the CO2 is into the sea, but it's very small emission to the atmosphere.
问题主要在于就是它比其他任何一种方法最后所增加的二氧化碳都少。
So that is just compare of all the methods, this is the lowest emission of CO2. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
We know that CO2 going into the ocean already is acidifying the ocean, making it more acid, which is not a good thing. But you're putting less than normally, so that's a good thing. How about the sulfur? Has the science been established? What is the effect of sulfur in the seawater?
So 他就是在问这个碳到了海里会好像也是一直酸性的，它会让海水变得更酸。那么这个硫也是，那么甚至它硫应该比碳对海水的影响会更大。所以他还是在关心这个硫洗消后排到海洋里面，会不会让这个海水的这个变得更酸啊 ？Do you mean you are worried the seawater being more acid?
And also having more sulfur in general.
Yeah.
就是会不会更多的
Because I can answer in a minute.
他说他可以回答，单小你回答。So
the acid is from CO2, but I think it's negligible from your process.
First of all, notice that the output pH on the field trial was 7.
Okay.
So that's not, that's pretty acid neutral.
Right.
The point about sulfur in the seawater is that it's actually a part of the natural processes of so many of the organisms that live in the seawater that it's really, going home. And most of the sulfur that gets into seawater is actually running off from the land. So its natural runoff from rivers and everything is already putting a lot of sulfur into seawater. The increase in sulfur concentration in the seawater is negligible. I mean, it's not even measurable. Very locally to the ship, it's measurable, right?
For that, before they dispose of the water, they mix it with fresh seawater a little bit. So it's even less.
So it's
even on the ship is already
diluted before it actually leaves the ship. Okay.
So, given that many governments around the world are trying to implement these standards, do you think this technology will ever be subsidized so that retroactively ships can install this? Or do the ship owners have to pay the full price of installation?
就是说，关于这个一些政府的法令嘛，就是他在想，就是说，是不是，我们觉得这些船农会不会为这个设备花钱嘛？ So do you mean will the ship owners will pay the technology?
Well, okay, so the new protocols are requirements. That's a requirement you must meet. Are there government programs anywhere that would help the ship owners pay for upgrading their ships?
Yes. 就说是他说政府的法规会强制，它会造成一个市场需求，会让这个船农来装这个。
我还来说一下，就是
安人
就目前而言，我们一直认为这种就是大尺度的环境的这个问题的解决，确实有一个重要的问题，就是要经济。
So currently, we also have a point that for the environmental protection, the environment program, it must be economical.
而且我们的观点就是，经济的才是绿色的。
So our point of view is that the economical technology is a green technology.
因为高成本背后就是高物耗、高能耗，本身就是不绿色。
Because the on back of the high cost, that means high cost of energy, high cost of materials. That is also not a good way to protection.
Can I ask a question? Follow up. What is the average price of marine bunker fuel versus the average price of diesel fuel used in a truck or something? Do you know?
就是我们知不知道一般这个船啊，就是用的这个油大概是多少钱？对，就是那个油。
现在一般用的渣油都在，我看应该都在200-300美元一吨。
一吨嘛？
对， 波动的嘛。
So it's fluorescent, but
Yeah.
yes, but maybe 200 or 300 tons, dollars per ton,
Uh-huh.
for the raw
你把我
oil.
们那
For
个
the
把那个
regular
调出来，
那个
marine
那个
fuel.
版本
Yes. 那个版本上没有。
So $200 or $300
Wuhan
per
查上
ton
去。
versus how much dollars per gallon?
欧洲传动协会有一个研究，就是如果要使用滴流油，那么当滴流油$500一吨的时候，那么欧洲的航运的货运量会下降15%。但是当这个滴流油的价格涨到$1000的时候，欧洲的航运量会下降50%。
So there's a data from the Europe, when the price of the oil if increased, then the ship, the volume of the transportation by ship will get down, and then if we get the data in another file.
Yeah. The
但是
yeah.
但是我们就是在这次演讲之前，我们查了一下现在的油价。根据网上可以查到了，休斯敦的油价，滴流油已经到了$1000。
So in Houston, the low sulfur content oil has come to $1,000 per ton.
也就是说，如果现在北美已经宣布要执行的法令，如果真的执行，那么航运业已经几乎不复存在了。
So it means if they really implement the regulation, so it's a very big disaster for the marine industry.
但是采用我们的设备，对船东来讲，这个负担非常非常低。
But for us, if the ship owners using the scrubbing technology, natural seawater scrubbing technology, very low price and low cost.
他所付出的代价是多少呢？是他现有油耗的1%。
So it means only 1% of the cost of the using the normal the oil.
就是这样的区别。
This is very big difference.
It's a huge difference. It pays for the cost of the system very
Yes.
quickly.
Yes.
We met with the Maritime Academy. They have the Golden Bear. They know that ship, the training ship. And every summer they have to go out for 2 months for training. And the chief of this ship, the Golden Bear, the whole year he negotiates the price of oil. And when he finds the cheapest, that's where they're going. So they don't know where they're going to go in the summer until he finds the cheapest oil in Guatemala or wherever. This is where they're going.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So you said that on the large scale it doesn't have a huge difference on the sulfur content in the ocean, but you said locally there could be temporarily a higher concentration of sulfur. Does that affect the marine life in any way?
So, very close to the ship, there may be an increase in the concentration of sulfur
Yes.
because of the waste seawater.
Yes. 他还在
Right?
问那个关于硫的问题。Yes.
Is there any study about whether that would harm
就是关于对于海洋生物啊
sea
的
life?
影响。我还有 picture，就是关于
把
这
刚才那个
海洋生物的影响。So this picture maybe can make sense。你可以给他指一下吗？
在现有的海水的组分中，硫酸盐占了10.8%。
So we can see in the content of the ocean, the water in the ocean, the sulfate is occupied almost 10.8%.
关于这项研究，我还要声明一下，就是不管是美国、挪威、英国和中国，关于这项工艺，具体的来说，这项工艺对海洋生物的影响，做了很大规模、很长时间的研究。
So as to the impact of this kind of technology, the seawater scrubbing technology, the impact for the creatures in the ocean. In United States, Norway, United Kingdom, and China, we have a long-term research and very long time and term scale monitoring.
那么大家有一个一致的结论，就是丹谢教授已经说到的，对海洋环境是友好的。
So we have come to the same conclusion that Professor Danshu has mentioned. It's friendly to the ocean.
再说一点就是，我们自己，你翻到前面两个电厂，我们自己在建设这两个电厂的洗涤装置的过程中，就进行过很大规模的研究和监测。
So we also make a lot of monitoring when we build the two power stations.
具体的监测和研究是由中国科学院南海海洋研究所。
So it was supervised by the China South Sea Research Institute.
在每一个电厂建设之前和之后，都会进行大规模的，包括垂直、不同深度的海洋生物的监测。
So there will be a very big scale of monitoring before and after the construction of the power station into the sea, the creatures.
特别是第一个电厂在建成之后，又由中国科学院出面进行了长达5年的这样一个连续的监测。
So there is about at least 5 years continuous monitoring, supervised by the China Scientific Institute.
那么中国监测的结论也证明了在中国之前，英国和北欧所研究的结论。
So that proved the conclusion dropped by the North Europe and the United Kingdom.
Let me add briefly, there's a huge difference between seawater and freshwater. This kind of, stuff going into freshwater would not be a good thing. And so this kind of technology would not be appropriate. For instance, for the coal-fired power plants, you wouldn't want to use lake water, fresh lake water for this. But the ocean is pretty mineral rich already, right? Okay, thank you.
Any question?
So, what is the situation in regard to other technologies? Who else has this kind of seawater technology? Is anyone else working on this
他
now?
说，其他的一些厂商或者是一些这方面的技术有一些什么样的情况和进展？
我们知道在欧洲现在大概有7家到8家，他们也在开发船舶的这个 EGC。
As we know, there is 7 or 8 companies in Europe to develop the EGC using in ship.
但是其中大部分现在都是在开发，就是我们说的化学品的方式。
So most of them are developing the so-called chemical method.
只有一家，他们也和我们一样在开发海水。
So only one company is same as us using seawater.
One very unusual thing about your company, Mr. Peng, is that you were early in adopting a kind of what I would call a Western approach to intellectual property and taking out patents. And I know that you've actually had to, with the onshore power, had to defend your patents in court already. Can you say a little bit about the patenting behind this process?
他说到就是说关于这个专利的问题，就是之前我们火力也有些专利，但是现在就是说想能谈谈关于这项技术在专利方面的一些情况。
我们在开发船舶这个
怎么样保护自己
这样一个领域的时候，我们对原来火电的这个技术进行了一个升级和更新，所以我们也把我们新这个改进的部分，我们也在很多国家申请了这个专利。
So as we develop the seawater technology using in ship, we update the versions of the technology used in power station. So we also applied patents in several countries.
有些已经授权。
Some of the countries also authoritated. authorized us.
因为这和我们原来火电不一样，这个是个国际性很强的。
It's very different from the power station because it's the most international industry.
Yeah.
包括我们的
You must patent everywhere.
我的朋友专利律师也给了我很多很好的建议。
So there's my friend, Mr. Joseph. He gives us a lot of advices on the patent.
Any other questions? If not, I'd like to suggest that we have some refreshments outside and talk more informally. First, please join me in thanking Mr. Peng again for coming all the way and giving us a great talk. Thank you so much.